Okay. So now we're recording, and we've talked about doing this for a while because our conversations are always so magical. But yeah, so my name is Laura Jane, if I don't know you. And this is my friend, Kristine Shroff. Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Hi. Yep, that's perfect.
Yes. And we're doing something we've talked about for so long. We've done it a little bit a few years ago, but just this idea of recording what happens when we have conversations. And we realize that it's really fun for us to share how we've become connected, because I live in Long Beach, California, and Kristine, you're in where currently?
The Philippines.
Yes. And
Manila.
where specifically? Manila? Okay, yes. So, and Kristine and I met through social media, right? Like probably 8 years ago now. We met through a Facebook group,
maybe 10
right?
years back.
Is it 10 years now? Oh my gosh. Yes. So by the time they started Facebook groups, it must have been one of the first Facebook groups. It was definitely one of the first Facebook groups I was ever in. Now it's like we're in hundreds,
Yes.
right? But we were both in this group called the Abundance Game that we got put into by friends inviting us, right? It felt so magical at the time to be in this, like, what's this group thing? And we wound up making this whole group of friends that became so special, and many of us wound up visiting each other and becoming really close friends and are still connected. So yeah, and Kristine's come to here in California like at least 3, maybe 4 times, at least 3 times since we've been friends. So yeah, so here we are now. And Kristine, what do you want to say about that before I yatter on?
Yeah, we've talked about making some videos and trying to just record our wonderful conversations that are just so inspired all the time. And I'm glad we're trying to do this right now after 10 years, or I don't know how long we've been wanting to do this. Yeah, I'm really grateful for the group that we were in, the friendships we've built, and yeah, it's a nice day to do this.
Right. And I just would love to mention what I realized before we started recording, how for me, like, and doing this kind of thing now, videos and even video conversations now is kind of the next evolution for me, of just following my excitement. Really, so much of that started in being part of that group, the Abundance Game. And that was the first place I got even brave enough to make a video to kind of respond to other people making videos. And it was just such this opening for me to get into these platforms, and just the trust that it involves, right? Like I feel like we all really made a leap to even trust that you could have deep connections with people through something like social media, right? That was at a time where it was even less known, right? Like, are they real friendships? That whole thing, like, are these real friendships? And that was just such a place where I first experienced that. And but I remember people around me even questioning, like, wow, are these really your real friends? You know, and then when you would come visit me, like, some people would never do that, right? Like invite someone to visit that they met through social media who lives from across the world. And it was the most amazing experience to follow that. So yeah, I love that part of the whole thing has been following the impulses or the intuition to is a lifestyle, right, that we've been like studying and practicing as a spiritual thing even. So here we are doing this from that impulse.
And I wanted to add that at that time, 10 years back, I was even asked if this was a cult or something. And I guess in some way it is, people going spiritual, understanding the oneness of God, not having all these forms of religions are just to represent one higher source and one God. So it's so interesting, like up to this day there is so much calling for us to learn and to answer something that is something we may have forgotten, because our souls know this thing, our souls know about the source energy, and where all this great amazing ideas and energy comes from. So yeah, I just wanted to put that
Ah,
in there as well.
and that just like reminds why that's such a reason to do such things. Like, because as you say that, it helps me see that our being in that group really was like a spiritual study group, right? It wasn't called that. That's what drew us all together, is we had similar spiritual teachers that we liked, right? That we were interested in following, the people who would wind up in that group and sharing about that, and our like ways we were using that and experiencing that and understanding that, and right, sharing resources. And so it's like a spiritual study group and a place to find community.
Yeah,
But it's just like you're saying, what helps us, what's so beautiful about doing that is it reconnects us with things like that truth about, what's true for us in our lives and the universe. Like, it's so beautiful how being part of a group of people or meeting people or studying with people like you and I get to do even in our conversations, right? We're always kind of like sharing our understanding of it and our feelings of connection and our realizations and our moments we're having
yeah,
with them. It's so magical, but how much it like strengthens us to live in that, and then why we'd want to live in that, because it's like living from our soul
yeah,
more and like who we really are more,
yeah,
and these things that are like so important. But it's such a
yeah,
fun way to do it, right? It's such a fun way to do it through other people and like friends and sharing the study, which is kind of
yeah.
yeah, I guess it's been going on for generations, but
Awesome. I wanted to maybe just touch up on our conversation last week,
yes, yes, let's do
and
that.
maybe we could like sort of share to each other um, something that's touched us or moved us from where
Uh,
we were at that point. So I don't
yeah.
know if you wanna talk about. We spoke about a very important topic about loneliness, and I
Mm,
feel like there's something so important for us to talk about that as well. So I don't know if you want
yeah.
to share anything resonating with you about that.
Well, why don't you go first if you have some thoughts that are coming through, and we'll see. I agree that that's totally a topic I've been meditating on with myself and just the human experience of it, right? And if we're spiritual, how do we want to handle loneliness, and how, or do we want to judge that or honor that? Yeah, so tell me what's been happening for you,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, with that
Yeah. Yeah,
awareness.
sure. Um, yeah, sure. So I've been reading this book called The Light Will Set You Free.
Oh,
And somehow I've gotten deeper into researching about the different dimensions. So
mm,
there was a soul medicine reading I did a year and a half back. And I didn't understand it. It said that I came from the fifth dimension,
mm,
and um, I am I am an old soul reincarnated back into this time. And one of the things I learned about people living in the fifth dimension is they sort of have a longing of home. And because maybe as an old soul, you know so much or you've gone through so much. And I mean, I don't know this for sure, but this is something I feel like is some coming up for me.
yeah.
And that was interesting. It may be on a I don't know. For me, it may be
Mm, I love
sometimes
that.
getting lonely on being in a way that because I really like being alone, and also that
Yeah.
sometimes there's also a part of me that wants to interact with people, but um, it makes me hesitant to share what I know about my spirituality, or these are the things that matter to me, and there's not many people that I can open up about it. And, and
Mm,
and I'm blessed to have friends like you and a few
mm,
others, but um sometimes I do stop myself from sharing or opening things, and I learned that this is a trait of a fifth dimension soul,
mm-hmm.
because you, as a fifth dimension soul, you're not you don't feel like sharing or helping or saving anybody. you just kind of open up when when it's required or when you feel like it. So I don't know, that's
Yeah.
something interesting for me. I don't know
Wow.
exactly what it means, but yeah.
Well, and it seems like it's also a wisdom and a respect that you're not trying to um, insert it if it's even, especially if someone's not ready for it, you know? So, oh my gosh, yeah. And I love what you're bringing up, I feel, in this idea of loneliness. It's like, what are we lonely for? And looking at that, and that's some of what you and I were talking about, and and how, yes, it may be lonely for feelings of
Yeah.
connection, but what connection with what, right? And then it's interesting to consider that. And maybe it's cool to consider that it's feelings of connection in various ways, that yes, sometimes does include other people, because right, sometimes we'll feel like, okay, maybe we should just be able to find that spiritually and not at all look to other people for that relief, right? And maybe that's where the problem is when we're
Yeah.
looking outside to solve that feeling that feels like loneliness. And then part of the reasoning would be like, you're even, you know, bringing up that maybe it's because we're lonely for actually more of like home, that's like more like a soulful place or soulful part of us, or more like God or source, right? And so that would even be more
Mm.
reason to look to what gives us that feeling of connection to that,
Yeah.
if that's what we're wanting. But it's cool to think maybe we also do get that through other humans, which is kind of cool, right? Like when it is a cool, like a good human
Yeah.
connection, good, when it's aligned, that it part of the beauty is that too can be a place to experience those feelings of union, right? Through being with another person. So interesting. It's
Yeah.
like the first time I'm thinking of this, and I'm sure it's been said by many traditions, but that both, so it's like both are true and all of it's true, right? Because if it is all one, and if it is all God and spirit and source, then the
Mm.
other people are part of that, right? But then it's interesting for us to find our way, like
Yeah.
how much, and like what you and I touched on is definitely the more connected we feel to ourself or to source or God or the universe, we are so much different when we're with other people, right? And probably so much even more ready to connect and have that
Yeah.
kind of connect. So it does keep coming back to probably more of us enjoying this, you know, any ways that we do get to just reconnect with self or source or God or whatever that is, and whatever does that for us,
Yeah.
you know, even though other people can be a part of it, right? When we're in the right energy, right? Otherwise it can be a way that we kind of can block ourselves because we're trying to fill it with them from a place, right? And then, right? Or if we think we
Mm-hmm.
don't have a person, then we can't solve that lonely feeling because we think it has to be through another person. So perhaps we've gotten confused about
Yeah. And
what we want and need.
in connection to in connection sorry in connection to what you're saying, um I realized also that so I'm seeking, and I want to allow like a partner in my life, and it's so important for me to have somebody who's spiritual. And
Yeah,
I never literally said that out or wrote that down, but now more than ever it's just so clear to me that
yeah,
it would make such a difference if I interacted with somebody who was spiritual, and that
right,
would make me happy.
right, yes,
So I
yes,
don't know if
because they can, yeah,
how
yeah.
that would be interpreted,
Mhm.
but it that's what feels good to me. So
Absolutely. I've been thinking about that too, and how, because you feel like you don't want to be judgmental, and you don't necessarily need a partner who's exactly like you in a lot of ways, but there do seem to be some things that like are helpful. And it's like being
yeah.
spiritual, even you're like, he's like, what does that come down to? And some of the pieces I've seen are like if you feel like you have
Yeah.
a choice in your life and what's happening to you, for instance, like that's a real difference in consciousness. If there's like one who does really like to feel like they have some choice or they're a creator in their life, right? Versus someone who just really doesn't feel that way. They just feel like, no, it's just happening to me. I really don't have any power. And it's just because it's like frustrating for both to try to be in that together, right? And it's even hard to like love someone if they're
Yeah.
yeah, or if they don't even want to play with the idea that there's a co-creation, and if they don't at all want to be in faith, it's just, yeah, it's just like harder. It's not, it's just like, right, it just makes it more challenging to even enjoy sharing life, right? To even like talk about your day. It's like, yeah, it's very interesting how much, and it doesn't really matter what they call it, right? It doesn't matter if they call it or feel like it's a man in the sky, or you know, if it's a relationship with Jesus, or if it's a relationship with the universe, or it's a relationship with just themselves, or, you know, whatever they call it, that doesn't really matter. But it's more like how it plays out in how we're handling ourselves in our lives. That does matter,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah, and
yeah,
if you're gonna have somebody to co-create with who understands how powerful we are and our connection to the universe, I mean, who wouldn't want to be partners or co-creators in that way? And can you even imagine like how good the energy of, I mean, it doesn't have, I'm not literally saying like a life partner or anything, but just in general, like if you
I'm
do
thinking
meet
that too.
more
Yeah,
people,
right. Yeah.
if you do meet more people who are in tune with the same thing, then you know
Yeah.
it's a totally different conversation that you're having from somebody who isn't.
It really is. And it really like shifts us so differently, because it does shift us, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe either
exactly.
conversation, that's the thing, because I've been hearing that in some of the teachers be like Abraham Hicks will talk about calibrating. And I just heard them today, I was listening, and say like, you can observe it, but you don't have to calibrate to it. And it's, yeah, just to even choosing what we're calibrating to. And it makes so much sense, even like you were saying, like with friends too, that's just a conversation with like anybody that we're spending our time with. It just does, especially if we are kind of feeling and living in maybe a different level of consciousness, like you're talking about this fifth dimensional consciousness, which I've been interested in that too, because you'll hear spiritual teachers talk about that.
Mm,
I've heard the conversation that I like, that's an interesting idea, that some people kind of come and are already kind of in that consciousness, which I could totally feel, even knowing you, that's one of the things I've always felt with you, like, gosh, your connection just feels like so strong in the way that you talk about things, like your just sense of understanding and feelings of connection with the universe. And that's why I'm also curious about like, wow, what are you doing to foster that? And you know, maybe you were just like born with that too, which probably me too. It's some of you were like born into some even privilege that sometimes can help us align with that sooner, right? If we have a life that's even blessed, like we both have, right? It makes it even maybe easier to just be in that, right? And I'm thankful for that. Like you don't have to like get through all this like terribleness to understand and believe that it all could be good in God, right? So that's kind of the beauty of that life experience.
I
But
feel like I feel like yeah, I feel like we also put ourselves through so much, like our own thoughts both make us stronger and make us weaker at the
oh,
same
right,
time.
absolutely.
And even even in spirituality, some people like us who study, who have been studying, you know, 10 years down and whatever, like I don't know how long, you
Yeah,
know, we have to do this, but um we also, I think, understand that we need to go through some things of remember I was telling you last week that um or every that whatever you went through was perfect because
yeah.
that's what makes you who you are today. Like there
Mm,
is no, and still we put ourselves through guilt, and still we put ourselves through shame, and maybe it's still part of it, even the pain of guilt and
yes,
shame.
right, right. It's part, and I really now have learned how much just even experiencing those feelings and feeling those feelings is part of it, and part of even a spiritual experience, right? Because it is just bringing up such awareness and helping us like kind of free layers that are maybe blocking us from those feelings of connection and oneness. So yeah, I've really learned a
Yeah.
lot about how to even allow the full human experience is like a spiritual thing to do, right? But then even still, it's fun to think that then you
Yeah.
can also direct and choose your experience as much as possible. Yes, yes, right? But then there's
Mm.
something interesting about also working with what is, right? And that there's always going to be something, right, that feels a little like
Yeah.
contrast, that's growing us and helping us find out more what we want, right? That's where it just like, it's amazing how just those philosophies that we can study can really change our life approach, right? And change our lives. And then,
Mm.
yeah, and then when we're hanging out with people who are in that consciousness by choice, it really does strengthen us. It really does.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it helps us when we get to interact with people who aren't as much, and just learning of that, right? And understanding of that. But yeah.
And they're such good teachers, people who, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, right? So um
Absolutely.
everybody is a good teacher to us, because we
Yeah.
either clarify better, or we can see better through how others take it. And
Right.
um
Right.
I feel like the things that we do to ourselves, we keep doing it until we learn. And it's very much like the soul and karmic cycles. Like the soul will keep coming back to earth if it
Um,
wants to learn something. So even if somebody wanted to teach you consciousness at that point, but your soul isn't ready for that, maybe you'll come back like another
mm,
lifetime, or
mhm.
I don't know, or come back another way and learn it again. So, but yeah, I feel like, um, and I tell this to myself because I hurt myself so much with putting myself in so much judgment. And it's
Yes.
not other people judging you, it's always, ourselves judging us.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's so painful when you know that there's another way of doing it. Some
Yes.
people accept it because they don't know, but and you're doing it, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. And that's where that's part of, I keep getting into that awareness more myself, that if I really am starting to feel like I'm a spiritual being and I'm a piece of God and I'm this divine way that, the universe can come through, that's so doesn't go with looking at myself with that judgment, or the ways that I might talk to
Mm,
myself or think about myself. It's like, well, if I'm God, then I'm like being blasphemous, right? Like in treating
mm,
myself like that, or not thinking I'm enough, even those kinds of things. Because it's like, if I am
yeah.
God, right, then, so I'm loving that awareness helps me. And then I'm sure just how much it changes who I am and how I am with people. Like, I was loving feeling through some of what you're saying. I feel like you and I both are in the consciousness or energy that there's no fear
Mm,
of like other people, or like people bringing us down, or that whole conversation, like that some people may not be worth our energy. Or that's where I feel like I've been
mm,
timid to talk about like what we're talking about, like how awesome it is when we get to be around the people who are in that similar consciousness. But part of that is
yeah.
it strengthens us, right? So we're not afraid of any people, so we can like love all the
Yeah.
experience, right? And not think
Yeah.
they're not as worthy, or I'm not going to learn anything from them. Or to really, yeah, to be in
Yeah.
that place of being able to respect that everybody has their own experience, and that's beautiful. Yeah, so I love that that's part of the union that I'm
Mm,
experiencing, is being able to just feel more loving and accepting to more people wherever they're at, and not to
right.
feel afraid like
Right.
I have to block my energy from other people. I've never liked that idea, that
Mm,
like wrap yourself in a bubble of protection. I've never liked that kind of energy practice that's out there in
mm-hmm.
the spiritual world, or like all these things about like going out there,
Protect yourself.
I don't like, that's
Yeah.
not how I feel. I don't feel like I need to, I just feel like I'm transmitting from, and that's like a protection, I guess, if anything. But I don't know, what do you think about
Yes.
that
Yeah.
whole bubble of protection thing? Have you?
I read about it on the book,
Yeah.
and it referred to Jesus Christ having a halo, and prophets and ascended masters having halos. Their pure energy
This is such a
would
thing.
light up. would light up a room or light up darkness, in all energies, and um somehow their energy would protect them from anything outside, like anything
Oh
that
my
would harm them.
God. This is so good because I've
So
been fascinated with halos lately. So I don't know if you know this, but I've been hearing like,
really,
so this is, I'm
okay,
having a halo sync. There's something here with the halos. It's time to start
yeah,
donning
yeah,
the
yeah,
halos.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think we need to like literally start trying to wear things that feel like halos. To just remind us. Go on though. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's, oh my
No, no,
God.
no, that's fine. And I feel like, and this is having the balance of the different parts of you, all parts of you, emotional, spiritual, physical,
Mm.
whatever, and having that glow of balance. I think that's what it is. That holistic embrace of you, being in the center, and that makes you so strong. But
Oh,
there are so many things that trigger us, and I can't get off of them, like things that irritate me, and and you're like, and we can't judge ourselves, and it's okay that it happens too. But um it would be ideal if we could still manage more, or I don't know, see it in more love, because obviously we're not in love when we judge other people or we judge ourselves in those situations. So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
the protection is required somehow.
Ah, but the protection is the balance. And that's what I love that the
Yeah,
halo signifies and reminds us. And I like to think about it, it's like we can put on our halo before we go out in the day. And like, what is it
yeah,
for you that like
exactly.
helps you kind of put on your halo so that that's the awareness you're in, right? And that's amazing. Oh, it's so good. There's, yeah, the halo is really cool. Even on Instagram, there is a halo filter. So we'll have to do an Instagram live, or
Oh
just so we
yeah,
can use
I
halos.
know. Let's
Oh
do
my
the
gosh!
halo filter.
Wow. And even at
I love
my
that.
Zoom spiritual retreat that I did last Saturday, I found I had us wear little, because Melissa, who's our friend, both of us, just bought herself this
Yes.
little hood thing that almost looks like something from medieval times that is kind of sparkly, and she's just like wearing it just like as part of her
Oh,
outfit. And I'm like, and she was saying, because she's been doing
awesome.
some priestess trainings, which I like that word, priestess, and they
Mm,
encourage doing something like a hood or something to like, and I was thinking about, what is that, like, is it crown chakra? So for my gathering
mm,
last
mm.
Saturday, I wound up putting like a scarf on my head, and then I kind of encouraged the other people to put something on their head. So I think I'm going to make that a thing now for my gatherings. But now I can
Yeah,
see more, it's the halo. It's like something that represents a halo. Oh, it's so
I know.
good.
That's awesome. I love that.
Halos.
So
Yeah.
have you had specific shifts within the week, or
Yes.
um
Oh my gosh.
something that's moved you?
Well, and I just even feel like I'm loving that we're having this conversation, because it's helping me see even more with like some of the things that have still felt like contrast to me are just making sense of how there's such differing opinions.
Hello? I can't
Getting
hear
a call.
you, LJ.
Is I'm
Okay.
hope am I back? Yeah. Seems when you get a call, it like does that. It's just one of those things. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it's been interesting to see through our conversation how I want to keep donning my halo more so that I
Yeah.
can have a different role in any contrast. Because yeah, even within my own life and circles, there's differences of opinion, and it all feels so strong, and I can get so strong in my
Yeah.
opinion, right? So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see that and make sense of that. But yeah, that's where I'm loving this idea that it's about taking like the high road, right? Or donning the halo, and even more, and just seeing, for me, that means about more like more of what can I do to get in that awareness of like seeing things how God would see them, or source would see them, or my best self would see them, or whatever I want to call it. So yeah, I feel really re-inspired to keep doing that, even though I think I'm doing that, right? But I think if I'm seeing myself
Yeah.
struggling at all, or especially not always responding with love like I want to,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'd like that to keep always being my indicator, like, okay, back to more union. And it goes with the
Yeah.
loneliness conversation too, that to me, that still is about more, to me, it's about more practices of union, more doing the things that I know get me in that, which often is just like listening to music I love and dancing, like one of my best ways right
Mm.
now. So more things to, and I just actually, I love, and this goes with what I just heard in that some of the Abe this morning, that was so good. Esther was talking about how lately she was having troubling thoughts and kind of struggling with something. And she started to think about that song,
Okay.
from Sound of Music, that is, these are a few of my favorite things. You know that song? That classic
Okay.
song. So
Okay.
I guess Esther
Yes.
was
Yes.
thinking about that song. And at first she was like, right now I'm thinking about all of my not favorite things. So instead she started to kind of sing that song to herself, like, these are a few of my favorite things. I'm like, because I feel like this is a new practice. I want to start using it. That's why I want to share it, because so
Yeah.
she goes on to talk about, and then she kind of jokes that she didn't actually say the things in the song because she never liked the things in the song. She
Yeah.
never got quite those, and that was kind of funny. But
Yeah.
instead,
Exactly.
that can be kind of a playful way that we can kind of just shift directions with our focus and thoughts, right? It's just like, these are, oh
Yeah.
yeah, get back to, these are a few of my favorite things. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, right. So, yeah.
Um, I wanted to share. I think I don't know if I told you this one audio of Abraham Hicks where the girl says that I let go of being in the hot seat and here I am. Because basically, Esther, when you light up, when your energy lights up, Esther will choose you. But she said, I let it go and here I am. And then then she says that I feel like there's a big change happening right now. And then Esther says, why? But there's always a big change happening.
Yeah.
Why is now more important than the last?
I
And
love
then she
that.
says, oh, because I thought I always knew what I was doing. And
Mm,
Esther says, um, there's a flaw in that premise. It's not because you thought you knew what you were doing. It's because you thought you knew everything you wanted. And
yeah.
that's the thing. There are so many things that we don't know yet that we want. Or
Mm,
we've put it in our vortexes and it's revealing itself because these are things that you don't have contrast about. It can be like gardening, it can be like cooking, it can be like, whatever it is, like things you never had contrast or resistance to, and suddenly it reveals itself and you're in a space to embrace and realize that, yeah, I do want
yeah.
something more than what I wanted before.
Uh,
So I feel
yeah.
like that's so powerful.
It really is. I love that, because, and you got me to a next level awareness with that, with this time you explained that, because I love, you had already got me thinking about this idea that we don't know even what we're going to still want, and this feeling of like, oh my gosh, there's so much ahead that we're still going to discover, and that feels really fun. And then that you help me see that, oh yeah, and it's through these things that can feel like challenge or struggle or hardship or contrast of any level, right? It's just a way to help us see what we want. It's like waking us up to that discovery. It's like it could be a fun thing, like, I
Mm.
didn't even know I wanted that.
Yeah,
I do want it. I want a friend
exactly.
who does that, or I want to, I want to experience that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that makes it feel so good. Yeah. And that's what I've really gotten back to, this reasoning of following I love that word, excitement. People will say, follow your bliss, follow your joy, follow your
Yeah.
intuition, even, but following your excitement, I love how Bashar would say that. And it really works for me, because it's like,
Yeah.
I know what excitement feels like. And the reminder that the
Mm.
reason to do that is because that's like our higher self talking to us, or our God
Mm.
self talking to us, or universe talking to us, or that passion, that feeling of excitement is like that God frequency, and that it like is guiding us more and more to like who we are, and that the things that we feel that way about are really part of who we are, and even I feel like what we're here to do. So I'm like, it gets me so excited to get back to
Yeah.
living like that. And then like Bashar would remind too, it's about doing that moment to moment with all our choices. Like, what do I want to do next within what's available? And just knowing that whatever feels the most exciting, like your higher self knows that's the thing to do, right? Because that's what's related to your things that are really important to you. It's related to things that are you. And so go do that. And then you and I know when we do that, we have this like magical ride,
Mm.
right? Of serendipities and
And
synchronicities and all the things, clicking. So
yeah. Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm back. I'm excited to get
And
back
how
to that. Yeah. Go on.
and how do we get in tune with, and
Yes.
it could be us or it could be like in general, how do people get more in tune into following the highest excitement?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there are also a lot of people with beliefs and
Uh-huh.
programs that don't know how to follow their highest excitement,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
that's so
We've been
important.
trained
It's
not
so
to.
important to, yeah, it's so important to
Mhm.
realize that um the gut or your heart or your body knows what will make you happy. And how do you now start listening to that bits and pieces of your energies that tell you that, oh hey, that doesn't make you happy, and hey, that makes you happy, so
Right.
to come
Wow.
into that awareness is so important.
Yes. And you helped me see too that part of this is getting back in relationship with the body, because I think a lot of the cultures and even religions really got us to disconnect from the body and to think that anything related to pleasure is of the devil, right? Or is going to distract us.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so we're confused about, can I trust the body? Can I trust something that feels like pleasure? Like,
Mm,
and
yeah.
could that be like, much less could that be a spiritual way to live, to know that your body is part of your guidance, right? And those feelings, and that
Yeah.
yes, like pleasure, excitement, fun, joy are feelings of God, right? Not feelings of like the devil. I
Exactly.
think that a lot of religion is taught that pleasure, excitement is something that's dangerous, and it's something to be not trusted,
Mm,
right? And it's going to lead to something
yeah.
bad. Because I've even had
Yeah.
friends around me who will say like, I find when I try to go for the extreme highs, I also end up experiencing extreme lows. So I'm just going for more neutral. They just want to feel like peaceful, and that to me, I'm like,
Mm, mm,
do I want that? I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to
yeah.
just be, I guess I don't mind experiencing if that was true, that if I'm going to let myself have these high highs as part of this lifestyle,
Hmm.
right? I don't know, that's kind of a different
Yeah.
conversation, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
very
I guess
interested in this.
it's also nice to mention that, because um that's their highest excitement. So that's what they have to do. That's the
Yes, there
thing
you
though.
go. There you go. Uh-huh. Yeah.
We need to totally respect um everybody's point of view, and it will always work for you because
Yes.
that's what you believe in. and
Yes.
and
Right.
again, how much of our beliefs, and this is a question we do ask, like how much of our beliefs serve us, and we don't
Mm.
normally ask ourselves that. Or maybe those who don't study too much about listening into your gut, into your intuition. But that's an important conversation where people would also listen to themselves. Is this making me happy? Is this belief of doing this thing providing me joy? And I feel like that's so important. People do not, and I don't know, like I cannot be specific of who this applies to, but even to ourselves to some extent, we do not ask ourselves what joy truly means for us, and what
Mm.
would joy really mean.
Right. And trusting joy as like that we can trust that. and follow that, and even that it's a spiritual thing to do. Yeah, it is. It's interesting for me to feel like this is becoming my, like, what I want to share, and it feels edgy, and I think we're coming upon why, because there has been a lot of conversation and belief systems that a lot of us have been raised in that are very contrary to that, you know, like, you can't just live like that, you know.
Mm.
But it is interesting how it's not, like, we're also seeing it's not just about trying to avoid any feelings, right? Or bypassing things that, you know, need to be felt. So I like that we've gotten to, I don't know, I'm thankful to have the awareness of the full range of human experience, as even to choose that as highest excitement. Like, I want to embrace all the feelings of life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
very interesting. Ooh, so good.
Fantastic. Oh, I love this conversation.
Oh my gosh, me too.
So powerful.
Well, I suppose that could be a decent time for us to call it to a pause. Is there anything that you feel like you
Yeah.
want to say before we would do that? Or maybe we could both, if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything I want
Um,
to say. Maybe there is something short.
yeah, I'm pretty much happy with our conversation.
Mm,
Happy we did it.
yeah. Yeah. I love what, yeah, has come through. And yeah, I love it. Like, I knew I totally had some realizations during this conversations and ahas and magical moments of
Mm.
synchronicity, like with the halo thing coming up. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So if anyone else is here watching, we appreciate you tuning in with us. This was fun for us to just feel like
Yeah.
it might be shared, right? It's just like a co-creation, a little like, our, again, even like mastermind effect, you know, channeling God coming through us right now, right? Through this conversation, in a sense. So, yes, thank you, universe, for that, for that co-creation,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Thank you, universe.
all right, well, let's do this again soon. And I love you so much. You're going to bed now, and I'm starting my day, right? Is that true?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. I'm so happy we got to do this.
Yes,
So
me
have a
too.
nice day,
You too. Have a
and
good
I'll
night.
see you soon. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.